Imagine waking up tomorrow. You open your laptop. Instead of searching for answers, an AI assistant is already waiting for you. It has read your emails, it has summarized the news, it has organized your schedule, it has written your first draft. It even reminds you what to focus on today. You ask it a complicated question. Within seconds, it gives you an answer that once would have taken hours or even days to discover. Now imagine this becoming completely normal. Knowledge is everywhere. Answers are instant. Expert advice is available 24 hours a day. Language barriers disappear. Programming becomes easier. Design becomes faster. Writing becomes effortless. Learning becomes almost free. For most of human history, knowledge was power. Today, knowledge is becoming a commodity, and that changes everything. Because once something becomes abundant, it becomes less valuable. Air is essential, but because it is everywhere, we rarely think about it. Gold is valuable because it is scarce. The same principle applies to information. For centuries, information was difficult to obtain. Books were expensive. Universities were reserved for a privileged few. Experts spent decades mastering their fields. Simply having access to knowledge could change the course of a person's life. But today we carry more information in our pockets than entire civilizations once possessed. And with artificial intelligence, access to expertise is becoming almost effortless. So here's the question. If knowledge is becoming free, if information is becoming infinite, if answers are becoming instant, then what is actually becoming more valuable? Is it money? Not necessarily is it intelligence. Perhaps not, because AI is becoming increasingly capable of performing many intellectual tasks. The truly scarce resource is something far more personal, something every company wants, every app competes for, every algorithm is designed to capture, and every one of us possesses only a limited amount of it: your attention. Whether you realize it or not, your attention has become one of the most valuable assets in the modern world. Every notification you receive, every video recommended to you, every headline competing for your curiosity, every endless scroll through social media, they are all part of a global competition, not for your money, not at first, for your attention. Because whoever controls your attention influences your decisions, your habits, your purchases, your beliefs, and ultimately, your future. We often think we're choosing what to watch, choosing what to read, choosing what to buy. But increasingly, those choices are being carefully shaped long before we make them. This isn't an accident. It's the business model behind some of the largest companies on Earth. And artificial intelligence is making that competition more intense than ever before. This raises a fascinating question. If previous generations competed for land, then for factories, then for oil, then for data, what is the most valuable resource in the age of AI? The answer isn't information. We've already solved that problem. The answer is attention, because information is no longer scarce. Human attention is, and that may become the defining economic reality of the 21st century. In this video, we'll explore how attention quietly became the world's newest currency, why technology companies are competing for every second of your focus, why your brain is struggling in ways it never had to before, why the ability to concentrate may become one of the most valuable skills in the AI era. And most importantly, how protecting your attention may be the single greatest investment you can make in your future. Because in a world where intelligence is becoming cheaper every day, attention is becoming priceless. For most of human history, knowledge was one of the rarest resources on Earth. It wasn't simply difficult to obtain. It was expensive, exclusive, and often protected by those who already possessed it. If you wanted to become a doctor, you spent years studying under experienced physicians. If you wanted to become a lawyer, you had to memorize thousands of pages of legal knowledge. If you wanted to build a successful business, there were no online courses, no search engines, and certainly no artificial intelligence waiting to answer your questions. Knowledge had to be earned, slowly, patiently, sometimes over an entire lifetime. This wasn't unique to modern history, it has always been true. Thousands of years ago, only a small number of people could read or write. Books were copied by hand. Libraries were incredibly rare. Traveling across the world to learn from a famous teacher could take months or even years. Simply having access to knowledge was a privilege. That scarcity shaped entire civilizations. Those who possessed knowledge often possessed power. Kings relied on advisors, merchants relied on navigators, farmers relied on generations of accumulated experience. Information traveled slowly. Mistakes were expensive. Expertise mattered because very few people had it. Then something extraordinary happened. Humanity entered the information age. The internet changed everything. For the first time, millions of books, articles, videos, and research papers became accessible to ordinary people. Knowledge no longer belonged only to universities or libraries. It began spreading across the entire world. Suddenly, anyone with an internet connection could learn photography, programming, economics, history, foreign languages, almost anything. Many people believed this would be the greatest democratization of knowledge in human history, and for a while it was. But something even bigger was about to happen. Artificial intelligence didn't simply organize information, it transformed our relationship with knowledge itself. Think about how we searched for information only a few years ago. You opened a search engine, typed a question, scrolled through pages of links, opened several websites, compared different opinions, tried to decide which source was trustworthy. The process required effort. Now compare that to today. You ask an AI a question. Within seconds, you receive a clear explanation. Need a business plan? It drafts one. Need computer code? It writes it. Need help understanding a scientific concept? It explains it in simple language. Need to translate an entire document? Done almost instantly. What once required hours of searching now takes only moments. This represents one of the fastest shifts in human history. For centuries, knowledge was limited by access. Now it is limited only by curiosity, and perhaps not even that, because AI is beginning to anticipate questions before we ask them. It recommends ideas, summarizes meetings, organizes research, generates creative suggestions. It doesn't simply provide information, it collaborates. For the first time, millions of people have access to something that resembles a personal tutor, researcher, editor, programmer, designer, and assistant, all in one place. The cost of intelligence is falling, not human intelligence, artificial intelligence. And whenever something becomes abundant, economics tells us something important happens. Its value changes. Think about electricity. When electricity was first introduced, it transformed industries. Today, we rarely think about it because it is available almost everywhere. The same is true for clean water in many parts of the world, or GPS navigation, or digital photography. Technologies that were once extraordinary eventually became ordinary. Knowledge is beginning to follow the same path. Having information is no longer a competitive advantage. Knowing facts is no longer enough. Memorizing information matters less when almost every answer can be generated in seconds. This doesn't mean learning has become unimportant. Far from it. It means the source of value is shifting. History is full of similar transitions. During the agricultural age, land created wealth. Those who controlled fertile land controlled food. Those who controlled food often controlled society. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Factories became more valuable than farmland. Machines became more valuable than muscle. Later came the information age. Data became one of the world's most valuable assets. Companies that collected and organized information grew into global giants. Now another transition is taking place. Artificial intelligence is making knowledge increasingly abundant. Not perfect, not always accurate, but increasingly available. And abundance changes everything. When everyone has access to answers, answers alone no longer create extraordinary value. Imagine two people starting the same business today. Both have access to the same AI tools. Both can generate marketing plans. Both can build websites. Both can analyze competitors. Both can receive financial advice. The difference between them is no longer who has more information. The difference is who can use that information wisely, who can think clearly, who can make better decisions, who can stay focused long enough to create something meaningful. Knowledge has become easier to obtain. Wisdom has not. Information has become cheaper. Judgment has not. Answers have become faster. Deep thinking has not. And that distinction may become one of the defining advantages of the AI era. Because when knowledge becomes free, something else inevitably becomes scarce. If everyone can access information, then information is no longer the prize. The real competition moves elsewhere, to something every successful company desperately wants, something every social media platform fights to capture, something every notification interrupts: your attention. And that is where our story truly begins. Take a moment and think about how you spent the last 24 hours. How many times did you check your phone? How many videos did you watch? How many notifications appeared on your screen? How many times did you open an app without even thinking about it? Now consider a different question. How much did you actually pay for those experiences? Most likely, nothing. You didn't pay to scroll through short videos. You didn't pay to search for information. You didn't pay to post a photo. You didn't pay to watch recommendations selected just for you. Yet somehow the companies behind these platforms have become some of the richest businesses in history. How? If the product is free, where does the money come from? The answer reveals one of the most important business models of the modern world. You are not simply using the platform, your attention is. For centuries, businesses sold products. A farmer sold crops. A baker sold bread. A tailor sold clothing. A car manufacturer sold automobiles. The transaction was simple. A product was exchanged for money. But the digital economy quietly introduced a completely different model. Many of today's largest companies don't primarily sell physical products. Instead, they create environments designed to capture one thing: your attention. Think about the apps you use every day. Short-form videos continue playing before you've decided what to watch next. Social media feeds never truly end. Streaming platforms automatically begin another episode. News apps send breaking alerts throughout the day. Every feature is carefully designed to keep you engaged just a little longer. Not because they enjoy entertaining you, because every additional minute has value. Time spent becomes data. Data improves recommendations. Better recommendations increase engagement. More engagement attracts advertisers. More advertisers generate more revenue. Attention has become the fuel powering the digital economy. This is why companies invest billions of dollars studying human behavior. They don't simply ask, what do people enjoy? They ask, what keeps people from leaving? Every swipe, every pause, every click, every search. Every second you spend looking at a screen teaches an algorithm something about you. What captures your curiosity? What makes you emotional? What keeps you watching? Over time, these systems become remarkably good at predicting what will hold your attention next, not because they understand you as a person, but because they understand patterns, millions, sometimes billions, of them. Imagine walking into a bookstore where every shelf rearranges itself the moment you enter. The books most likely to interest you move directly into your path. The covers become more attractive. The titles become harder to ignore. Now imagine that bookstore learning from every visitor who has ever walked through its doors. That's much closer to how today's recommendation systems work. Artificial intelligence has accelerated this process dramatically. Algorithms no longer simply respond to your choices. They increasingly anticipate them. They learn when you're most likely to open an app, when you're most likely to stop watching, when you're most likely to click, when you're feeling curious, when you're feeling bored, sometimes even when you're feeling lonely. The goal isn't necessarily to make your life worse, nor is it always to make your life better. The goal is simpler. Keep your attention for just a little longer, because another minute becomes another opportunity to display another advertisement, recommend another video, collect another piece of behavioral data. This creates an unusual relationship. You believe you're consuming content, but at the same time, the platform is consuming something from you, not your money, your attention. Perhaps that's why people often say, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. That statement isn't entirely accurate. You are not literally the product being sold. Your attention is. Advertisers are purchasing opportunities to influence human attention. The platforms simply provide access to it. In many ways, attention has become a marketplace. Companies compete for it. Creators compete for it. Politicians compete for it. News organizations compete for it. Even your friends compete for it every time they send a message or share a link. Every notification is a small request. Look here. Read this. Watch one more. Don't leave yet. Individually, these interruptions seem harmless. Collectively, they shape how we spend our lives. The average person no longer has to actively search for entertainment. Entertainment searches for them. Information no longer waits patiently on a shelf. It follows them everywhere, in their pockets, on their desks, on their watches, even in their cars. The competition is relentless because attention is limited. Money can be earned again. Data can be copied infinitely. Information can be generated instantly by artificial intelligence. But every human being still has only 24 hours in a day. Only so many moments of conscious focus. And that makes attention one of the rarest resources in existence. The companies that understand this are no longer competing to build the best product. They are competing to become the place where your attention lives. This is why the world's most valuable technology companies invest enormous resources into personalization. The more precisely they understand your habits, the more effectively they can hold your attention. And the longer they hold your attention, the more valuable their business becomes. But this raises a deeper question. If billions of dollars are being spent to capture your attention, what exactly is happening inside your brain that makes this competition so successful? The answer begins long before smartphones, long before social media, and even long before the internet itself. To understand today's attention economy, we first need to understand the human brain. Because the greatest technology ever exploited wasn't the smartphone. It was the mind that holds it. Have you ever picked up your phone for just a moment, only to realize that 30 minutes had disappeared? Maybe you only wanted to check a single message, but then you noticed a notification. You opened it. A recommended video caught your eye. That video led to another, then another. Before you knew it, you couldn't even remember what you originally intended to do. Most people blame themselves when this happens. They think they lack discipline. They believe they simply need stronger willpower. But what if the problem isn't your self-control? What if the environment changed far faster than your brain ever could? Because here's something we often forget. The human brain wasn't designed for the modern world. It wasn't designed for smartphones, or endless notifications, or infinite streams of personalized content. It wasn't designed to make thousands of decisions every single day. For nearly all of human history, our ancestors lived in environments that looked nothing like the world we know today. There were no glowing screens, no breaking news alerts, no social media feeds updating every second, no algorithms competing for attention. Life moved more slowly, information traveled slowly, and opportunities appeared far less often. The human brain evolved to solve a very different set of problems. Find food, avoid danger, build relationships, recognize patterns, survive long enough to raise the next generation. Every feature of your brain developed to improve those chances. Even today, millions of years later, those ancient survival systems continue to shape almost everything we do. Take curiosity, for example. Curiosity helped our ancestors survive. A strange sound in the forest might signal danger. An unfamiliar plant might become a valuable source of food. A new path could lead to water. Paying attention to something unexpected increased the chances of survival. That instinct still exists. Only now, instead of reacting to movement in the trees, we're reacting to movement on a screen. A flashing icon, a vibration in our pocket, a red notification badge. Our brains treat them as something potentially important. Not because they truly are, but because evolution taught us that ignoring something new could be risky. Then there's novelty. The human brain loves new experiences. Novelty activates the brain's reward system because discovering something unfamiliar often brought advantages in the natural world. A new hunting ground, a better shelter, a new ally. Today, novelty comes in a very different form. A new post, a new comment, a new message, a new recommendation, a new video arriving every few seconds. The content changes endlessly. And because it keeps changing, our brains keep paying attention. Another ancient survival system is anticipation. Imagine one of our ancestors searching for food. Sometimes they found berries, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes a hunt succeeded, sometimes it failed. The reward was unpredictable. Surprisingly, unpredictable rewards are often more powerful than guaranteed ones. When we don't know whether the next attempt will succeed, the brain becomes even more motivated to keep trying. Psychologists call this a variable reward system. You don't receive a reward every time, only occasionally, but those occasional rewards keep you coming back. Modern technology has adopted this principle remarkably well. Refresh your email, maybe there's good news. Open your social media app, maybe someone liked your post. Scroll one more time. Maybe the next video will be even more interesting. Most of the time, nothing extraordinary happens, but every once in a while, something does. And that possibility is enough to keep us engaged. This is why many people compare social media feeds to slot machines, not because they are identical, but because they rely on a similar psychological principle. The next reward might be only one swipe away. Notice something important here. None of this means you are weak. It means you are human. Your brain is responding exactly as it evolved to respond. The problem is that the environment has changed. Our ancestors occasionally encountered unpredictable rewards. We now carry thousands of them in our pockets. For the first time in history, billions of people have instant access to an endless stream of novelty every second of every day. Artificial intelligence has accelerated this transformation even further. Years ago, everyone saw roughly the same content. Today, two people opening the same app at the same moment may see completely different worlds. Why? Because AI studies your behavior. It notices what makes you pause, what makes you laugh, what makes you angry, what keeps you watching. Then it quietly builds a version of the internet designed specifically for you, not necessarily to educate you, not necessarily to inspire you, but to maximize the chance that you'll stay just a little longer. The more time you spend, the more accurately the system learns. And the more accurately it learns, the more difficult it becomes to look away. Without realizing it, your attention enters a feedback loop. You watch. The algorithm learns. It improves. You watch even longer. The cycle repeats. This is one of the defining features of the AI era. Technology is no longer simply responding to human behavior. It is continuously adapting to it, faster than ever before. And yet, despite all of this technology, one thing hasn't changed: the human brain. It still seeks novelty, it still responds to uncertainty, it still follows curiosity, it still craves reward, exactly as it did thousands of years ago. We often imagine that the greatest battle of the 21st century is between humans and artificial intelligence. Perhaps that's not entirely true. The real battle may be happening much closer, inside our own minds. Every day, countless systems compete for a resource that cannot be manufactured, copied, or replaced: your conscious attention. Every notification, every recommendation, every endless feed, every autoplay video, every carefully chosen headline, each one asks the same question: can I have just one more minute, one more click, one more glance, one more thought? Because once your attention is captured, everything else becomes easier to influence. Your emotions, your habits, your purchases, even your beliefs. And perhaps the greatest danger isn't that technology distracts us. It's that constant distraction slowly changes the way we think. When our minds become accustomed to endless stimulation, silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Patience begins to feel unnecessary. Deep thinking begins to feel exhausting. Without noticing it, we lose the ability to remain with one difficult idea long enough to understand it. And that may become one of the greatest hidden costs of living in the age of artificial intelligence. Because if attention is the world's newest currency, then focus is the skill that allows us to keep it. And that is becoming increasingly rare.